Hey everybody, this is Carlo from Forge Glory Custom Leathercraft. So I wanted to do this video here because this is something that I don't usually, this art is something that I don't usually do. This is called the Sheridan style of art. You know, these, the flowers and the leaves and whatnot. And I'm absolutely horrible at doing this kind of art. But I found a guy that I've started working with, and this is what he specializes in, and it's amazing. And I don't know if this video is going to be able to tell, but if you look at here, got a needle here, the amount of depth that is in this art is really amazing. I don't know if you can tell with how far the needle sinks in these different places, but the amount of depth that he does is amazing. And that is why, because you know, you have this stuff that's here on top, and then you have stuff that doesn't even touch the needle that's below it. And so that, you know, the indentation in the leather is pretty awesome. I don't know if this is capturing it or not, but the amount of detail and the amount of you know, space from the top to the bottom is just amazing the way he does it. And I am doing these in black because black is what sells the most, or I'm doing this one in black because black is what sells the most. I can do it in brown and Indian tan, whatever you guys want. Heck, I can even do it in blue or red. But you know, this one, for the first one, I'm doing in black. This one is this one will be a Ships Now product that you can you know, you can purchase, and this one will be ready to pick up, ready to go. I'll have it in the mail the next business day. Any other orders, like if you want to customize or anything else, then that's a different story. You know, we'll have to do the whole custom order thing. But so I did what I call the colorful native art in the center, and he did the everything on the outside. I think it turned out awesome. I love his work, and we're going to have a section on the website that is dedicated to his style of work. And so in the past, I refused to do any Sheridan style or the Western style of products because, you know, I'll be honest, I suck at it. I'm not good at it. I'm just, you know, I've tried it, and it's not my forte. You know, my style of art is very different. And so I've always refused to do them, but now living here in Nixa, Missouri, which is right next to Springfield, Missouri, which is the headquarters of Springfield Leather Company, I've been able to meet some awesome leather workers and who can do styles that I can't do. You know, they're better than me. So if you want the Sheridan style, because it is filling up the whole background, you know, there's my regular charge for the art, and then there's going to be his charge on top of it for the art. And for something this big, just one side, he charges, oh gosh. Well, I'm going to have to get back to you on that because I don't remember what he charged. But it is quite a little, you know, I mean, there's my charge for doing the center art. If you just want the Sheridan style on the whole thing, we can do that too, and it'll just be his charge to it. But his work is absolutely amazing, so I wanted you guys to see this before I filled it in with black. Because I'm not that good at taking pictures. I'm just not. I'm not a picture taker. You know, I do the best that I can with my iPhone. And but I thought a video would showcase what it looks like better than my pictures would. So this video will be tagged in the listing of where this is going to be sold on the website. So as you see, whenever I get more dye on my paintbrush, I make a little mark like that to the side, and that's just so that the dye doesn't make a big blotch on the first touch. Because if I were to do that and then touch that down, it would just deposit a big blotch, ruin the art around it. So I do that just to safeguard it. So if you follow me on social media, you'll see there was this one piece of art that I did, and I didn't do the whole blotch thing, and it ruined the whole piece. And so I had to start over, and that's painful. It's not just painful for me because, you know, I lose money, you know, I can't sell the piece, I lose the money, whatever. But it's painful for you guys because, you know, if I got to start over, then everybody else's everybody's order gets pushed back a little bit. So I just learned to make a habit that when using black, at least, to do that little blotch thing there. All the other colors, not that big of a problem. It's always the black. I am enjoying, for people who've been following me for a while, you know, I've been living in Springfield, Missouri, or not Springfield, but Nixa, Missouri, which is right next to Springfield, for a little over a year now. This is, in Springfield is where I went to high school. It's where I went to college. It's where I joined the army, where, you know, I joined the army out of Springfield. And so my parents live here. My wife's family lives here. And so for me, it was just you know, because of my leather work, you know, I'm doing this all online. I can live anywhere in America that I want. And, you know, we wanted to come back to be close to family. My parents are elderly. They're in relatively, you know, my parents are actually better health than I am. So, but they're in their mid 70s, so it's nice to be around them. Hope they have another couple decades in them to be around. But, you know, I'd put them in their 90s. But no, I've completely loved being here in Nixa, right next to Springfield. Because I can go, you know, I don't have to make orders from Springfield Leather Company anymore. I can just go there and pick it up. And they were probably getting annoyed with me when I was living in Clarksville, Tennessee, because I'd call, I'd make an order, and then I'd find something that I missed that I needed for that order, and I'd call them back and amend the order. And you're like, could you please figure this out? I mean, they never said that. They were, of course, a lot more polite than I gave them credit with that comment. They never said that to me. But I'm sure the frustrations of taking the order and having to go back and add more to it and making sure the shipping people knew and all that stuff was a little bothersome. But now I can just go in there and pick up whatever I need. And it's nicer to be able to go into where they sell the leather, so that way I can choose the leather hide that I want, instead of, you know, they have all the leather in a pile, and you know, they just start at the top of the pile and work down, which, you know, which is what they should be doing. But I get to go through the pile and pick out the pieces of leather that I think look the best, or the best that suit my needs, or your needs, I should say, because this all is for you guys. But I can pick out the, you know, the better looking pieces of leather, and, you know, let somebody else buy the other stuff. I don't care. And what I mean by better looking pieces of leather, it's, you know, cows are living beings, and so they're going to run into barbed wire fences. Some farmers still use brands, but not all of them. And so I can choose the leather that doesn't have a brand on it, so that way I can get full use out of the piece of leather. And I can choose the leather that doesn't have as many mosquito bites, doesn't have any, you know, the flaws of a natural cow's life. You know, I got tons of scars. Of course a cow's going to have scars. Every animal does, who's lived a little bit of life. So I get to go in and choose by hand, you know, the best looking pieces, make sure, you know, pieces of leather, and make sure that the leather is, you know, and I'll choose, you know, the biggest pieces of leather. For some leather, it's sold by the square foot. Other leather is sold by the hide. So especially the suede. The suede is sold by the hide. And so when it's sold by the hide, and I order online, you know, I can get some where I can do suede backing for 2, sometimes 3 heat shields, or 2, and then have enough left over to do a fender bib. No, I feel like I said that wrong. So when I order, you know, I can get that kind of hide where I can do, you know, I can get 3 products out of it. Or, you know, if they're just starting at the top of the pile, and they're just sending me whatever, some of those hides are big enough just to do 1 heat shield. And so that significantly raises my prices, which I have to pass on to you guys. So now that I can pick out the hide and make sure that the hide is big enough that I can get at a minimum 2 pieces out of, or 2 products, or 3. 3 is the best. You know, if I can get 2 heat shields and a tank bib or a fender bib, that is the best scenario. But since I couldn't pick them out for myself, when I was living in Clarksville, I'd get some pieces where I would just get 1 heat shield and that was it. So it's definitely been more cost effective to live close by. All right, now that the small details are done, I'm going to use a dauber, you know, use the paintbrush for the small details and then a dauber for the big details. A lot of people think that when you're dyeing leather, you just put it on there and it's good. But once that dye seeps into the leather, you'll notice some inconsistencies in the way that you dyed. And so you put more dye in one spot than another. So you really want to drench down your leather with black when it's black. You really want to drench down your leather so that there's no grayish part or lighter black parts to the leather. Now, when it's brown, unfortunately, the more dye you add, the darker the brown will be. So even if you're using a light brown, the more dye that you use on the light brown, the darker the brown will be, which is unfortunate. So you got to get that perfect, I don't know, the perfect amount of application when you're using other colors. Otherwise, you'll get the color too dark and then it's unrecognizable. Blue's the same way. If you you put too much blue on, then it's not going to look right. As you see, the other side, I'd already done the other side before I started the video, and that's what it looks like. And I'll also polish this up. And also, you know, that's one thing that you're going to, this is one thing that you're going to get with custom handmade things, is that every single piece is going to look different because every brush stroke is different. It's not going on through a machine that uses a template to make every single piece look exactly the same. You know, that's not what's happening here. You know, it's not being screen printed on, so every piece will have its own character to it, even if I'm using the exact same art. All right. Well, if I can find my brush and polish it up, here it is. It was on my other table. Polish this up. And I like the look, so whenever I'm doing black, you know, some of it transfers over to the brush, and then I can get it to transfer onto the art. But I don't want it too dark. You know, I just want to gray it up just a little bit, gives it a little more depth to the art. And I think that if you can, as you're watching the video, you see how it picks up that little bit of a darker color there. It makes the accents in the art pop out. Man, I'm absolutely loving the Sheridan. I'm so glad that I found him. His name is Ryan. He's already done a tank bib for me. He did this this heat shield for me, and also got a bedroll that I gotta dye to. But that one doesn't have any art in the center. We can put art in the center of it, but that one we decided to go with just the full Sheridan style. But as always here at Forge Glory, if you can think it up and we can do it, we'll get it done for you. I hate saying no to anything, even if it's a challenge. The Sheridan was too hard of a challenge for me. I couldn't get it down. So I found somebody else who can do it. So that's my part of the challenge. It's finding the talent. And this is just a horsehair brush, you know, the kind that you use to shine your shoes. Oop, just noticed a couple places that I missed.